The Stapleton MCA announced this week that residents of the neighborhood voted to keep the neighborhood's controversial name. About 35% of the residents in the neighborhood participated in the election, with 65% of the voters seeking to keep the name. Eric, were you surprised by these results in the Stapleton neighborhood?
I was somewhat surprised, particularly by the margin. I mean, this was a 2-to-1 race in a very liberal neighborhood of Denver, not terribly integrated, but very, very liberal. I'd say the woke quotient, if you can use that phrase, is pretty high in a place like Stapleton. I think it is probably a reaction to some of the excesses of this whole woke movement over the last few years in terms of getting rid of statues and whatever. There has to be, at some point, an ethic of you judge people in the context of the times in which they live. No historical figure will look nearly that good in a modern context. That said, I thought Wellington Webb had a thoughtful op-ed on this a few weeks ago, and it's one thing, you know, to be tearing down murals of George Washington in a San Francisco high school. That's crazy. Benjamin Stapleton was not that long ago. I mean, he was a century ago, so that's a substantial period of time. But we're not talking 3 centuries ago. And I mean, he was not tacitly part of the Klan. He actively was a part of the Klan. He brought the Klan into Denver City Hall. He made the Klan a part of city government. He beat a recall election by activating the Klan. He's a particularly reprehensible figure in Denver and Colorado history. Now, lastly, I suggest that most people who live in Stapleton, when they are asked where they live, they're not thinking of Benjamin Stapleton. They're just thinking of the name of a neighborhood and an old airport.
Noel, is this issue, does this vote rest the issue or heat it up?
No, it doesn't rest it. This country continues to struggle with racism. It's a scar and a stain on our country. As a people, we should have no tolerance for it and confess up to our racist legacy that's still in existence and impacts every aspect of life in the United States. And it's not unprecedented for Denver neighborhoods to eventually change their names. In April, Swastika Acres was a subdivision in Cherry Hills Village. They took a neighborhood vote and their name is now Old Cherry Hills. So it's not unprecedented and it may take some time to gain momentum. This isn't over.
Natasha, what do you think? 5280 writes a lot about Denver issues. I'm sure it's written about this one. Were you surprised by the results?
I don't think so, but I do think it is part of an ongoing conversation. I don't think that it's a conversation that's finished. I mean, human beings, for as long as probably recorded history, have felt the need to name things after other human beings. And every groundbreaking and ribbon cutting that I've been to in recent memory, that case pretty much holds true. So until we change that, I think we will continually have this problem. And it is an important discussion to have, whether it is 2019, maybe it's something that should have happened in 2000, 1990. I mean, go back as far as you want. These are questions that we should continue to have. And you know, just as on a lighter side of things, Stapleton has just had a couple of weird weeks between the prairie dogs with the plague, the fish concert, can't have camping on the grounds anymore, and then the air mattresses that were flipping through the neighborhood. This is a little bit more serious, as is appropriate, but it's just been an odd news cycle for that neighborhood.
Indeed. David, wrap it up for us. What do you think?
Back in when Stalin was running the Soviet Union and people had the official Soviet encyclopedia, they would from time to time get instructions. We got this encyclopedia page which has a cover of a picture of an esteemed party member who's now in the gulag. So here is a replacement page. Cut out the page with him and put the new one in, and we'll pretend he never existed. And I think the people of the Stapleton neighborhood and this country of a whole are just kind of sick of this, if you have to go back and obliterate everything from the past.